Bitcoin, currently at about 90,000, it is stuck within a very tight range of resistance and support levels. And this thing is about to break soon. I am going to show you guys why that is and why do I think Bitcoin is very likely to go back to 100,000 and beyond. Now, this is the 3-day time frame, and on the 3-day time frame here, you see Bitcoin is stuck between quite a few trend lines that I've been talking about. Okay, so it is stuck first of all between this bottom trend line here of this falling wedge it broke down from, which is very important because falling wedges usually break to the upside. But we're all just talking about probabilities here, so the downside is always got to be considered. Now, it is also stuck between the 3-day 200 SMA that's currently at about 89,000, the orange line, right? So it is in between this very tight range. If you want to see some short-term upside from Bitcoin, you want to see a 3-day candle close back above this bottom trend line that will invalidate this falling wedge breakdown scenario. Okay, we have about 6 more hours left until this 3-day candle closes. Very important to see how it closes. Now, I've been talking about a few bottoming signals here for Bitcoin, which is the driver of this crypto market. If Bitcoin has more room to go, which I do very much think it does in terms of probabilities, then that's going to be good for a lot of these altcoins. However, if it dumps from here, of course, there's still a chance that it does. That's going to be very bad for the altcoins. Now, let's take a look into the monthly time frame, where one of my main arguments on why Bitcoin has bottomed is because it hit the monthly 21 SMA, which it has not done so for a long time. Okay, it has broken above it back in October 2023, and it was very rare. It was on a rare occasion that it didn't retest it sooner, right? Uh, but it hasn't retested it for for over 2 years, right? It's going to be a major support. Whenever you touch down to a major support or test a resistance on the first time, it's usually going to be a very strong reaction. Okay, last time Bitcoin has actually touched down on this monthly 21 SMA, like I've been telling you guys, was in the middle of a bear market back in January of 2022, and this moving average still held the price action up for 4 months in the middle of a bear market. Do I think we're in the middle of a bear market? I still don't think so, but of course, I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here, so my opinions on an outlook on this crypto markets is bullish in general. However, these are just my opinions, not financial advice. You guys got to form your own opinions and strategies. Now, let's take a look into. We're going to be taking a look into some news as well. So, let me finish telling you guys about this Bitcoin chart here. And of course, one very key event that is going to be happening in 2 days, which is going to be the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting on December 10th, where they have their press conference and release their federal interest rate decision. Okay, we're now looking at basically a 90% chance of a rate cut. Okay, so very important to be watching what Jerome Powell says in terms of the outlook of next year. Okay, because that's still important, even though he's going to be stepping down, which, it's very likely that Trump is going to be putting in someone that's more dovish, and that's going to be better for the risk on assets, okay? Because he wants someone in there who is going to be cutting rates and easier monetary policy. All right, so like I said, in 2 days, very important day. I still think Bitcoin has more room to go. And the 100K scenario, where am I pulling that from? Is because Bitcoin has broken below this weekly 50 SMA. It has not retested it. Okay, very unusual for Bitcoin, especially to break above or below a key level and not go back to retest it, especially moving averages. Okay. And why do I think it's going to more likely to retest right now is because we have quite a bit of oversold signals on the daily RSI as well as we're on the monthly 21 SMA. Now, this resistance, the monthly 21 SMA is currently about 102,000. That's where I'm getting that 100K and beyond. Okay. And I still think this bull cycle is very much on because the FOMC is cutting rates. It has just started its Fed rate cut cycle, and very soon, Jerome Powell is not going to be the chair of the Federal Reserve. So that is going to be very likely taking us to newer highs on Bitcoin here. I'm gonna keep covering Bitcoin for you guys here because it is the driver of this market. And if my opinions change as new data comes out, let's go ahead and take a look into a few news here that could be very important. This is by News BTC. Crypto markets on alert as this week's Fed rate decision isn't just about rates. It isn't. Well, let's see what this analyst has to say. All right. Crypto markets head into this week's Federal Reserve meeting focus less on rate cuts and more on whether Jerome Powell quietly declares the start of quantitative easing. Yes, that is also very important because quantitative tightening has just ended as of December 1st. That's basically when they actually take money out of the economy, out of the system, which is bad for the financial markets, right? Quantitative easing is basically the opposite. It's basically where they print money and inject money into the system, so asset prices inflate. The key question on Wednesday for macro sensitive traders is whether the Fed shifts into a bill heavy reserve management regime, quote unquote, that starts rebuilding dollar liquidity even if it refuses to call it QE. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, future markets suggest that the rate cut decision itself is largely a foregone conclusion. Okay, that's just an opinion. According to the CME Fed Watch tool, which is the tool that we just talked about, traders are assigning a roughly 87% odds to a 25% percentage point cut, 25 basis point cuts. Okay. Underscoring that the real uncertainty is not about the size of the move, but what the Fed signals on reserves, T-bill purchases, and the future path of its balance sheets. Okay, so if you guys want to read more about this, it's going to be interesting because yes, there's more going on behind the scenes than just the rate cuts because they just stopped quantitative tightening. I'm also going to be following on that for you guys. Next piece here is by B in Crypto. Global markets liquidity returns in a broken system. US crypto news. I think it's talking about very similar things as the previous piece. Let's dig a little bit into this one. Grab a coffee as global markets enter a period of unprecedented friction with the era of synchronized economic cycles coming to an end. While the US quietly restores liquidity, China remains locked in a state of deflation, which sounds bad, and Japan's rising bond yields threaten to destabilize global capital flows. Okay, I mean I don't know too much about that, but I'll share my insights with you as I get to know more from these pieces of news. This has created a fractured multi-speed adjustment that will test investors and policymakers alike. Okay, what are some key points here? Against this backdrop, investors now face a fractured global system with competing forces shaping market behavior. The forces are US liquidity injections, which are good, right? It's bullish. Chinese political constraints, I'm not exactly sure what they are talking about. Japan fiscal stress, that sounds bad for the global markets. That's just my guess. Now, I'm just learning this with you guys on the spot here, okay? China's $18.9 trillion debt trap while Beijing can't print. Okay, so if you guys want to read more about this, you guys can. I will share more insights with you guys as I get to know more. Next one is by Cointelegraph. Bitcoin gives up 90,000 at US Open as 2-week exchange outflow nears 35K. When I read news like this, they always try to tie some type of current event to a very short term price action. That's what I don't like. But let's see if this analyst has any other insight or solid points to share. Okay, my focus is on the charts and technical analysis. I could probably tell you a lot about technical analysis. So if this person is talking about that, let's read a little bit more into it. This is the hourly chart, which is very interesting. But key points: Bitcoin keeps volatility coming as U.S. sellers send price back below 90,000. I've talked about this resistance with you guys just right now. This is very important. Liquidations remain steady as investors stay on the sidelines amid indecisive price action. Yes, we are in between a very tight range, but a decision is coming as a resolution for that range. So very important to be paying attention to, like right now. Evidence of buying the dip is visible across exchanges over the past 2 weeks. Well, that's good. Okay, so some solid points here. Even though I don't really like the headline, but if you guys want to read more about it, you guys can. So this is basically what I'm seeing for Bitcoin, and wraps up for this video. I will do some altcoin videos for you guys. Let me know if you guys want to see any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis. And I'll see you on the next one.